Hey everybody, it's Party Elite, or should I say, 大家好，我是 Party Elite, because a Total War China game has been confirmed this week. Named Total War Three Kingdoms, we have a very specific slice of history that we're going to be dealing with, and if you're wondering why it took me so long to make this video, it's because I want to take a look at not only the trailer, but I also want to briefly discuss the historical setting leading up to the titular time period. If you're interested in one or the other, check the timestamps in the description below. It's very early to say anything for certain, but let's start off with some light speculation. As a side note, I spent a lot of time practicing how to say all of these names. Feel free to give me some tips down below, but I'm trying here, so I apologize for any butchery. First things first, let's watch the trailer, and as always, timestamps below to skip.
The Empire, long divided, must unite. A great dynasty burns, and tyrants rule over the ashes. As the light dims, shadows grow ever darker. Ambition corrupts the future, and harmony shatters in the flames of turmoil. Yet from the cinders, the powerful and righteous emerge. The Empire, long united, must divide, and destiny be shaped by its champions.
So first of all, fall 2018 is right around the corner. I'm going to throw this out there, but the Moon Festival, which is extremely important in China, is going to be on the 24th of September this year. That is a very viable target date for release. Just an early thought. Again, way too early. Second, just an extra tidbit that I thought was really cool. The vocals that start this trailer off are from a Han Dynasty song or poem, and the lyrics that we hear say, I started serving in the army when I was only 15, and at 80 I have finally retired and can return home. Now this song goes on to describe how this soldier asks everybody in his hometown if his family is still around. He goes on to prepare himself a meal, but comes to tears when he realizes he has nobody to share it with. So tonally, I love the trailer and the angle it's taking. Sure, it's beautiful, it's very nicely illustrated, there's lots of action as well, but the music and just the tone that the opening sets, I absolutely love it, and I really want to see that dark grit of history represented here. Now, with regards to what the trailer shows us mechanically, I'm hoping that this heralds the return of night battles, maybe even weather dynamics, and perhaps the option to wait for ideal battle conditions based on your army, something we've seen before. Now, with less than 100 years between the start of the game and the end of the period, I imagine we're going to see turns tied to seasons, my guess being 4 turns for 1 year, and I really want to see the vast geographical range of China come to use here as well. Then, much later in the trailer, we get to this section over here, which almost certainly implies a legendary lord or hero style approach in this title as well. After all, we see that already entering historical games with immortal leaders in Empire Divided and things like that. Now, I'm not sure just how fantasy-infused this game is going to be, and while it's interesting to have these hero characters and RPG elements, I hope they aren't all immortal, and I hope time and age plays a key role. Death and succession is important in a time like this, so I really don't want the fantasy elements to overpower the historical feel of these games. With that said, there is this scene here, and if I'm not mistaken, the Oath of the Peach Garden is a fictional event in which the very real people, Liu Bei, Guan Yu, and Zhang Fei took an oath of brotherhood to protect the Han Empire. While the brother-like relationship between the men might be real, this event is certainly a romanticized telling of the tale. With that said though, this fictional moment has inspired many secret societies in China and their sort of inauguration process. Really too early to tell what we may or may not see as far as mechanics are concerned, but I'm hoping that the focus setting in time and space will allow for a more complex campaign map experience while also maintaining some of the really interesting RPG elements we've seen come in recently. Now, I think a family tree also makes more than enough sense to include here. After all, again, succession is very important, and maybe we'll see the return of Avatar Conquest or something similar. We'll see. But I imagine we're almost definitely seeing the return of naval combat. A very different form of naval combat was taking place here than elsewhere. It was all sort of range-based and trying to kill enemy ship crews rather than simply ramming into them and boarding. So it'll be interesting to see how that's executed. And with great hope, I like this shot here, and I want it to mean that we're seeing larger scale battles. Numbers were a big deal in the era, there were massive armies being fielded here, and with the laboratory for Warhammer 2, I hope we're paving the way for battles at a larger scale. But again, really too early to discuss mechanics, so let's move on for now. It's been said that the game picks up in the year 190. Typically, the Three Kingdoms period refers to a time between 220 and 280. But it looks like we get to play out some of the early, more chaotic parts of the period preceding the official start date. And I say official with giant air quotes, mind you. So just before this time period starts, the Yellow Turban Rebellion or the Yellow Scarves Rebellion happened 6 years prior in 184. This 21-year rebellion was actually the result of famine, flooding, migration that comes out of that, tax hikes, and all of that sort of brought about these armed groups and private armies by the year 170. At this period in time, the Han government was also faltering due to corruption, the increasing power of the 10 attendants, these 10 eunuchs as a part of the emperor's court, and the apparent divine intervention brought about the belief that the emperor had lost his mandate of heaven. Even though the organized approach of the rebellion had been foiled before it could take off, around 360,000 people rose as a part of the rebellion, forcing the imperial army on the defensive. The rebellion was suppressed in 185, but its sentiments carried forth, and there were a few resurgences right up to the early 200s. The Yellow Turban Rebellion also set the stage for the collapse of the Han dynasty. In the midst of all this is the start date 190. This year, or potentially late 189, was when Liu Bian, the 13th emperor of the Eastern Han dynasty, was assassinated by Dong Zhuo, a warlord that we can see here. Dong Zhuo's assassination of the emperor meant Liu Xie, the younger brother of Liu Bian, would become Emperor Xian of Han, the 14th and final emperor of the Eastern Han dynasty. Here we see the young boy rising to power, but merely as a puppet to Dong Zhuo. In response to this, a coalition rose with leaders such as Yuan Shao, Yuan Xu, and Cao Cao. Dong Zhuo was eventually assassinated in 192 by Lu Bu, one of his own followers, but the young emperor didn't manage to escape captivity till 195, stranded till 196 when the warlord Cao Cao found him. Cao Cao had been on a campaign uniting China, invading various provinces and doing some pretty horrible things every once in a while, but he's classified as a historical badass due to the fiction surrounding him. Now, on finding the young emperor, Cao Cao paid allegiance to Emperor Xian, but in reality, used the young emperor to bolster his own status as the de facto head of state, eliminating other warlords to reunify the Han Empire under his rule. In the year 200, the Emperor Xian sent one Dong Cheng a secret edict to assassinate Cao Cao. Working with Liu Bei to make it happen, they were found out and all of the conspirators were executed, except for Liu Bei, who got away and later becomes a major player. Apart from things like that, which any emperor can expect, I guess, all was going pretty well for Cao Cao in his unification of China, managing to bring the north under his wing outside of a few issues here and there. His push south, however, didn't go so well, with the loss at the Battle of the Red Cliffs in the year 208, a historically significant battle that I imagine we'll see in-game. This battle saw Sun Quan, the third major player, a descendant of Sun Wu, more commonly known as Sun Tzu or Sun Tzu, and Liu Bei on one side and Cao Cao on the other. Though Cao Cao significantly outnumbered his opponents, he was outplayed and lost a significant engagement, preventing his expansion into the lands south of the Yangtze River. There were many other battles between Cao Cao and the two allies, all with varying degrees of success and failure for either party. this situation to the south was stabilized by 211, and the north was put entirely under Cao Cao's control, and by 215 he was named the King of Wei, as a mere vassal king though. In 219, the alliance of Liu Bei and Sun Quan fell apart due to resentment between the two because of past offenses. In 220, Cao Cao died, and his successor, Cao Pi, forced Emperor Xian to abdicate, establishing one of the three kingdoms, Cao Wei, or simply Wei. One might say this paved the way to war, especially since in response, Liu Bei proclaimed himself as the Emperor of Shuhan in 221, and Sun Quan later on in 222 declared independence for his own state when Cao Pi demanded Sun Quan send his son as a hostage to the Wei capital. And thus, the Wu Empire was formed. And so, the three kingdoms were officially proclaimed some 30 years after the start of the game. Yeah, that's a lot to take in, and there's plenty more. I haven't even discussed the next 60 or so years, which is part of the official time frame of the period. This is a very rich period of history with a fair bit of romanticizing as well, and as we move closer to the fall 2018 release date of the game, I'd love to dig deeper into the factions and what we might be seeing. Let me know if you're interested in more content like that on this channel. Now, we're definitely going to be seeing the three kingdoms or empires themselves. I imagine religion is going to play a huge part of things, especially since Taoism was an important sort of factor in some of these situations over here, and I really hope to see the campaign map gain some degree of complexity here. By 280, the period of the three kingdoms came to a close. So, in this 90-year span from the start of the game to the end of the period, there's plenty of history to rewrite. What are you looking most forward to? Any particular events or stories from this era that you're excited for? Anything you're worried about? Let me know in the comments down below. I hope you enjoyed this video, and as always, if you'd like to keep up with all sorts of Total War news alongside other content such as battles and campaigns, make sure you subscribe to this channel. Till next time, a big thank you for watching, and cheers.
Long united, must divide, and destiny be shaped by its champions.